Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Banter Waight Boxing Podcast. Pound for pound, the number one boxing podcast around. I'm your host, Michael Waight, and joined with me today are two of the Waight brothers. We've got Jimmy and Joe. Joe, do you want to start off with introducing yourself? Well, I've done that
Everyone.
for you, but
Yeah, you've done the hard bit, Mike. But good evening, chaps and ladies.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the pod.
And in today's episode, we're talking about the long-awaited Khan versus Brook. It's finally here. Everyone said they didn't care about it, but the closer we've gotten to the fight, we've all been hooked, especially for me with that gloves are off. I'm so excited for this fight. But before we get into the pod, I've actually got two shout outs that I'm going to give. We've got two new subscribers and we're going to shout them out by name. And that is Mr. B. So big up Mr. B and Lee Faulkner. So shout out you two and be like them two. Get on the subwave. Subscribe.
There's some good fake names there, Mike. For those.
Yeah. I did pretty well making new accounts, but you know.
Sweet mum and dad to do that.
Yeah. I've run out of email addresses I can use. So guys, please start subbing. Anyway, let's get into this long-awaited pod, Khan versus Brook. So let's start off with some questions. We'll kind of break down the fight a little bit. But stay tuned to the end because that's where we're giving our predictions. And you know we always get it right. We got our last prediction spot on and we're going to do the same today. All right. So, Jim, I'm going over to you. And let's just start off with a bit of a generic question. Come on. How excited are you for this fight? Has this fight gripped you as much as it's gripped me?
Yeah, no. The diary for the weekend is clear. I cannot wait for this fight. It's 10 years overdue. But it's finally almost upon us now. I'm just praying every morning that no one's going to pull out of a last-minute injury.
Yeah, there's always that fear with boxing, isn't it? You know, we had tickets to the Waight fight. I know it's still too early to bring that up, but you know, we thought we were going to see Waight versus Wallen, and then it pulled out last minute, so it can happen. But although we've been waiting 10 years for this fight, and we would have liked to see them in their primes, is there kind of like a new exciting aspect about this fight? The fact that they're both quite old, they're both kind of over the hill, but in a way, it means it's almost harder to call. Like no one really knows what we're going to see in this fight.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think it adds a slightly different element to it in that whoever loses, basically their career's over. Certainly if it's a knockout. I think if it's a sort of split decision or quite equal on points, it's obviously likely to be the rematch. But I think if there's an emphatic victory by either boxer, it really spells the end for what would be for either of them a great British boxer. So really anticipating the fight.
No, definitely. Well, let's get into some of the intricacies of this fight. Joe, going over to you. How much do you think the weight cut for Kell Brook is going to play a factor? So we know this fight is going to be at 149. Kell Brook is always kind of fought at his best at at super welterweight, really. His last couple of fights have been at that kind of weight, 154. And as obviously he's getting older, it's going to be harder to cut. Do you think that's going to favor Khan dramatically in the fight?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, 147 is what Khan probably is naturally best at, and like you said, 154 for Brook. To come down to 149 is completely in Khan's favor. It's not even really a catch weight because I can't really see what difference £2 would make. But it will certainly, in terms of punch resistance, Brook is already quite a wounded animal, and I think he's definitely going to suffer stamina wise and even generating enough power sort of at lower weight. Certainly in Khan's favor.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think it's enough to possibly sway the fight, or is it not something that people should be too bothered about? It's a factor in Khan's favor, but it's not going to be.
I guess it depends how the fight goes, because if it does go Khan's way, of course people will look to that as fans tend to do. But I certainly do think that shows the willingness for Brook to get in there and fight, because I think he has compromised quite a fair bit by dropping down so heavily, especially when you look at his last fights and the damage he took at the higher weight. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. But there's also, well, I read into it, it's interesting, there's also rehydration clauses. So obviously you've got people like Danny Jacobs who come in really light on when they do the weigh-in, and then obviously they rehydrate. But they sort of put limits as to how big Brook can actually come in on the night. So he will be significantly smaller than what he naturally would walk around at.
Yeah, smart move from Khan's team there. Definitely gonna favour him. But you spoke a little bit there about kind of punch resistance, how the weight cut's not going to happen. I mean, weight cut's not going to help Brook. Let's stay with that kind of punch resistance, because you can't say Amir Khan's name without saying chin. So, Jim, I watched The Gloves Are Off, and a little bit was spoken about, obviously, with Khan's chin of, that's his fatal flaw or his Hamash or whatever you want to say. But Khan actually hit back and said, well, I don't think your chin's much better, mate. You've been in some serious wars as well. Do you think both fighters really, even though it's Amir Khan, are probably equally as chinny, both equally likely to get knocked out in this fight? It's not like how it usually is, where Khan's going into a fight and, he's highly likely to get knocked out, but the other guy isn't.
I would have said 3 years ago, Khan undoubtedly has the weaker chin of the two fighters. If you look at the caliber of opponents that have knocked down Brook, generally speaking, they're a lot higher than those that have knocked down Khan. Khan was getting knocked down by lightweights. So I think, Brook's knockdowns have come against, some of the deadliest hitters in the middleweight division. And then, arguably some of the pound for pound best fighters around, in Terence Crawford. Did Spence knock him down? I think he did. I know he stopped him, but might have actually knocked him down.
Brook. Are you talking about Kell Brook?
Yeah.
He took the knee. He took the kney after I think that's when he was aiming for the eye, and then I think he took a knee. I don't know if he got knocked down before then, but
Yes, I think, look, in answer to your question, I think historically I would have said Khan, but I think it's just very difficult to say now with the damage that Brook has suffered in his last 3 fights. It's really hard to answer that question, but I think my view would be still, I think Brook has got the better chin of the two. I think Khan is the better boxer, but I would say my money would be on Brook's chin over Amir's.
Although it's, I'm saying this would be a dirty tactic in boxing, but you can't even really say that with boxing because the sport in general is pretty dirty. But if you were in Khan's team, would you be saying from the get-go, you got to focus on those eyes?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
It's a weak link.
Yeah, there's no question. There is absolutely no question. He is going to be pumping that jab. If I was in Khan's corner, you keep your distance. You've got the reach advantage. You've got the quick jab, bang, 1-2, 1-2, in and out, in and out. For me, I can't see Brook winning that fight on points, is my view. I think if it goes the distance, it's Khan's fight. I think if I'm in Brook's corner, I'm saying you got to hurt him. You got to make it rough because he's a proper fighter, Khan. Brook, sorry, he's got a lot of heart, whatever you say. He has got the heart of a lion. And I think if he's going to beat Khan, he's got to rough him up, fight on the inside and hit him with some hard shots and really try and stop the fight. Because I just think if it goes 12 rounds of boxing, I just think Khan's got the skill set, the speed to beat him.
Yeah. Before we give our predictions, I think I know the answer to this already, but does anyone actually think it's going to go 12 rounds? Because this is one fight I think I can categorically say, no way this is going 12 rounds. I think I can so easily say, I just don't think. I think there's a strong argument for either fighter winning, but I just do not see 12 rounds.
There's so much venom in the tie, and they've both been wounded so heavily in the past. It has got all the ingredients for there to be a big, devastating finish to it.
Well, you mentioned the word venom there, Joe. We've seen throughout, for about 10 years or so, Brook, sorry, I'm going to get those names mixed up the whole pod, but we've seen for that, for about 10 years or so, Brook chasing Khan and a level of hatred for another man, which I think Khan hates Brook, but I don't think it's to the same extent. I think a lot of it is coming from Brook. And that was so blatant in The Gloves Are Off. Like, he's literally looking him dead in the eye, like, I'm coming for you. Do you think that aggression is going to help or hinder Brook in this fight? Because when I saw him in that Gloves Are Off, very tense. All of the build up, very tense. But on Khan, on the other hand, he's laughing, he's joking. It just seems like another fight for him. It seems like a grudge match, but I think he's playing up to it for the money a little bit, but I think, you know, Brook's always been in Khan's shadow a little bit, and that has just wound Brook up. But what do you make of Brook's aggression? How's that going to affect the fight?
Yeah, you've said exactly what I was going to say. I think you're right. The hatred stems from Brook looking at Khan, and they've relatively sort of achieved the same amount, but he's been in his shadow, and that really frustrates him. He's been chasing and calling his name. Khan hasn't really ever been too bothered, and you can see that is reflected in the whole them fighting at 149. Shows Brook's desire to get in there. He really does hate him, and it's a matter of course, he could use that in his favor, controlled aggression, or it could go against him. And with the speed that Khan possesses and how well he gets in and out of range, he could very easily catch a rash Kell Brook on the night. But like I said, it depends how you're right. He does seem very, very angry, and that's normally all right, but it's sort of juxtaposed to the way Khan's been so cool, collected. But I'd say it work in Brook's favor, because at that age, in the later rounds, when you've got to dig deep, like Jimmy said, he's a tough cookie, and I think his durability and his passion, he'll turn that aggression into sort of controlled aggression and use it in his advantage.
Yeah, I suppose also as well, you got to think about it outside the ring in the build-up. You know, having that kind of hatred for someone is going to get you up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
It's a motivator. Yeah, it's a motivator. And you can look at Khan's laissez-faire attitude as, you know, being a bit complacent, perhaps.
Yeah, very true.
Works both ways.
All right, give me a name here, Joe. Who do you think out of the two is going to be the first to ditch the game plan? Because I know this is going to go. It's going to be a war. Like, it is going to be a war. I've just got a feeling for it. But who do you think is going to be the first out of the two to just go, fuck it, I'm swinging?
Well, I think Brook. I think Khan will go in there to sort of do the job on points, get in and out of range, jab well, like Jimmy said. And I think Brook will more be looking for that counter to stay into the fight. And about 7, 8, that's when he's going to try and counter him, hit him hard, rough him up. So I think Brook has got he's going to be more adaptable to Khan anyway. So in that respect, I think Brook will sort of go, right, I'm letting the hands go now. Whereas Khan's going to have a bit more of a measured approach.
Yeah. So Jim, you were speaking a bit earlier about kind of game plans, and, you know, what you would say you'd do, you know, if you're in the corner, should we say. If you were in, let's say, Khan's corner, what's your game plan going into it? What are you telling Khan? Let's break the fight down into 2 halves or something like that. What are you saying to Khan in the corner? What's the game plan from the get-go?
I think you want to win the first 6 rounds. I think you don't want to go in too heavy. I think you want to sound him out. I think you want to quick jab, 1, 2, in and out. You know, the whole thing Khan's always said over this sort of 10-year rivalry is, I used to school this guy, you know, in the amateurs, you know, the coach would say, just use your left hand on him today. So I don't think he would say that if there wasn't some degree of truth in it.
Yeah. I felt that as well. I did. So
it may not have been as, it may not have been as simple as that, but I think there was definitely an element of Khan being the superior boxer when they're younger. Now, a lot of time has passed since then, but I think for Khan, you know, he's never carried a huge amount of power, but his punch speed is just phenomenal. And that is his real strength. And he's got to play to that. And I think what you want to do is you want to get Brook into a place where he is coming after him with the big haymakers, because that's where Khan can use his speed and get him with the counter and hurt him. I don't think if he goes toe-to-toe with Brook, it's going to end well. I think if he comes out first round and tries to go toe-to-toe with him, I think it's just going to play into Brook's favour, because I think Brook has the heart, the strength to do more damage. But I think Khan is the better boxer. So you've got to just rely upon that superior boxing skills. Yeah,
we've seen that with Khan as well. A lot of fighters can punch with Khan, if you see what I mean. Like, the fight that comes to mind is the Danny Garcia fight. When Khan got knocked out in that fight, which was, again, another pretty brutal knockout, it actually came from an exchange where Khan was throwing punches, but Danny Garcia worked out, actually, I can take these and land one. And one thing I've seen with Khan, because I went back and looked at a few of his older fights, is when Khan does get hurt, or when, you know, someone hits him, he will fight. He's not always the best at tucking up, clinching, getting through the round and restarting. If he feels he's been connected, his initial reaction is just to start swinging. And that's kind of what happened in the Danny Garcia fight, and he got laid out. So, I think my point with that would probably be is if you're in Brook's corner, you're probably saying, we can afford to have some exchanges here. Exchanges are good for us. You know what I mean? Well, I've given a bit of a point of what I say to do for Brook, sorry. Joe, what would you be saying is your game plan for Brook?
Like I sort of mentioned, it's about staying in the fight. I think Khan's, like we've all agreed on, Khan is the superior boxer. But like everyone will say, he is, you call him chinny or whatever. Brook has the power to put him on his ass. So I'd stay in the fight 8 rounds, let Khan sort of pick up the first couple of rounds, which I'm sure he will do with his superior speed and IQ.
And a fast starter as well. Very
fast start, always starts well, other than when that Prescott geezer flattened him. I'd say stay in the fight. I mean, about 7, 8 or 9, one of those sort of rounds, that's when you really start turning on the gas. And if I were Brook, start laying into him. Kitchen sink
stuff. Yeah, hopefully that is what we see. Well, we've given a bit of a fight breakdown. Let's get to the bit that everyone's been waiting for, the predictions. Well, we put our boxing knowledge on the line. We risk it all for the pod, risk looking like absolute mugs. But to be honest, I think with this prediction, I don't think anyone can fault you if you get it wrong, because if you think you know what's going to happen in this fight, you're chatting shit, because no one does. I wouldn't be surprised if, one of them has a heart attack in round 2, like they have
or an injury before Saturday. I wouldn't even rule that off.
Yeah, something like that. But let's get into our final predictions. I want everyone to basically give a bit of a story of how you think this fight's going to go. I'm going to kick it off because I've been thinking about this fight a lot, and this is how I think it goes. A bit kind of similar to what Joe was saying to start it off. I think speed of Khan is obviously going to be a massive factor. You're not going to get away from that. I think first 4 rounds or so, Brook, is going to have to be feeling out Khan's speed, right? Khan's going to be coming at him, combination punches, overwhelming him. And I think I think his actual game plan will be to try and get Brook out early. I think he's going to try and go for Brook early, throw the combinations, because he's a very fast starter, and he's got fighters out there early before. Like recently it was Le Greco, who I know is not of the same caliber, but I think Khan will come out there quick. He knows the longer he's in the fight, the longer the chance is he's going to be knocked out. And I think he's going to try and blow Brook out early. That's actually what I think is going to happen. But what I think his game plan will be. But what I think will happen is Khan will do that. I think Brook is actually very good at timing fighters. He's a very precise fighter. And I think a bit like when Crawford fought Khan, I think Crawford took his time, got the timing down, eventually started to time Khan. And I think that's what Brook will do, and slowly ease into the fight. And I'm seeing Brook knocking him out in round 8. 8 or 9, I'm going to say 8. I'm going to say, no, round 9. Round 9. I'm leaving it there. Brook's knock him out round 9 after an early onslaught from Khan. I think he weathers the storm, comes back, knocks him out. Who wants to go next?
Go on, Jim.
So I've really been yo-yoing between the two. First I fought Brook, then I fought Khan. Now I'm sort of thinking Brook again. I think 5 years ago, I would have backed Brook 100%. I think the way, if Khan wins inside the 12 rounds, it's because of an injury to Brook, if I'm completely honest, which will be obviously an injury incurred by Khan. But I think if Brook stays, without any injury to the eye, then I think he does him. I just think he wants it a bit more. When I look at Khan, I think what makes me question his pedigree a bit. He's done the, I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. Whereas I think, Brooks stayed true. Although he's had some bad defeats, he stayed true to the profession. He's wanted this so much, and I just think, the only reason he really got stopped by Golovkin is because he's probably going to go blind, or his eye was going to pop out. So I just think, I think he'll do him. I really do. I think I could quite easily see Khan winning, but I think that would be the result of an injury. My money, again, I don't always like to echo what you've said, but I'm gonna go for Brook early doors, round 7.
Round 7. I agree with everything you said there, but apart from the fact that Brooke would 100% got an I'm a celeb if anyone outside of the like, let's get that straight. That was not done out of commitment to the sport. It's just Amir Khan was a big fucking name, and no one knew who fucking Brooke was. But apart from that, I think spot on. Joe, you've got the final say.
Yeah, I hate to follow suit and be a bit boring, but I've gone from Brook from the start. I think
he's bottled it, Jim. He's bottled it. He's just gone for what I've said. He's just.
I'll give you an alternative though. If it's
no. Give me
late. I do think it will be Brook round 10 or so. It'll be a stoppage. Khan will want to continue, but he'll be taking too much damage. But I also can see a draw somehow that they'll wriggle another.
Yeah.
So that's my alternative.
I could see a Fury Wilder 1 kind of thing.
Yeah,
I think they'll definitely run it back. There is a rematch clause, so I think they'll definitely run it back. But yeah, I'm feeling Brook late knockout, but I at the same time I could see Khan just coming out quick, throwing those combinations. Like, he's knocked so many opponents down early on, like Maidana, good fighters, and it's just about whether really Brook can adapt to that.
Weather the storm. We've done Vargas early as well, I think.
But we'll see. The wait is finally over, and we're going to see it on Saturday. I cannot wait. It's going to be a huge fight. We will be doing a post-fight review / commentary or whatever on the fight. I think we're going to try and do it Sunday or whatever, give our reactions to the fight. But anyway, thank you all very much for listening. As I said at the start, make sure to like and subscribe. It helps a lot. And would you two like to sign out?
Thanks for watching, everyone. Stay safe.
Yep. God bless. God bless. Good night.
God bless.
Messed that up a little bit. Switched off too early.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
All right. Thank you for listening, and good night.